So let's get to another noteworthy part of that Biden sit down with Jake Tapper, where he was asked about the possibility of a recession. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
The economy remains top of mind for voters. JP Morgan Chase CEO said the U.S. is likely to enter a recession in the next 9 months. Bank of America says the U.S. could start losing 175,000 jobs a month. Gas prices are on the rise again. Should the American people prepare for a recession?
No. Look, they've been saying this now. How every 6 months they say this. Every 6 months they look down the next 6 months and see what's going to happen. It hadn't happened yet. It hadn't. There's no guarantee that they're going to be. I don't think there will be a recession. If it is, it'll be a very slight recession. That is, we'll move down slightly. Look, think about what's happened. We have done more. We're in a better position than any other major country in the world, economically and politically.
So,
slight recession.
Noteworthy there that he even acknowledges it's a possibility.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, that's the first time that they've even admitted that we could be heading for a recession. Now, he's actually not wrong that we're better positioned than a lot of countries around the world. It's just a dire statement on how poorly positioned a lot of countries around the world ultimately are. And that's being our own domestic fragility and likelihood of falling into a slight or deep recession is obviously being fueled and exacerbated by the Fed's policies. And that is also exacerbating, fueling that possibility for countries around the world. Saagar, there are also new inflation numbers out this morning that do not paint a pretty picture either.
That's right. So it just came out while we were filming the show. Inflation rose to 8.2% in the last year. That is down from the 40-year high of 9.1% in June, but obviously still too high. In September alone, core inflation rose by 0.4%, which is up from 0.1% in August. Food and rent prices are continuing to climb, even though gas has come down somewhat. So what are the things that are driving inflation? Number one, rent. Number two, food. Number three, health insurance. Health insurance is actually up 20. I just got a letter in the mail, Krystal. My health insurance will be going up by 120%.
Open enrollment period coming up. I got that letter too.
What a beautiful system.
We actually
120% increase.
We should actually cover those increases specifically because it is really out of control.
So health insurance is up 28% in the last year. Thank you, Obamacare. Rent is up 7.2% in the past year, the largest increase since 1982. Wow. Groceries are up 13% in the last year, with flour, turkey, and butter up the most ever in their entire history. So I guess we'll get to do that fun. Actually, we literally did it last year. I remember how expensive will your Thanksgiving dinner? It's like, wait, turns out it got worse. I can't believe it.
Well, and this is obviously important in terms of what it means for individual consumers and families trying to make their budgets balance at the end of the month. It's only getting increasingly more and more difficult. It also matters a lot in terms of what the Fed is going to do because they're going to look at these numbers and they're going to say, so it already was basically set in stone that they're going to lift rates again by 0.75 points. That is an extraordinary hike. I think it'll be the fourth time that they've lifted them by 0.75 points. And then the reporting is after that, they were going to have a debate about what they were going to do next, whether they were going to, sort of dial it back, maybe do a 0.5 percentage point increase next time around. When you see numbers like this, which outside of, I believe, food and energy is like the highest inflation that we've seen in decades, is the not good indicators of how things are going, that is going to keep them down this incredibly hawkish path of austerity, which is designed to, quote unquote, tighten the labor market. What does that mean? Spike unemployment, crush wages, make it a lot more difficult for workers who are trying to organize or just trying to, live and go about their business. So this all makes it that much more likely that we are going to enter into not a slight recession as the president soft pedals there, but into a, real severe and painful recession for a lot of people. We also had pulled before, there are a lot of signs of just how precarious the American public is financially right now. And in fact, the sort of global public financially. But let's take a look at this next piece. This is from MarketWatch. They say savings are drying up as financial fragility increases. After socking away savings during the aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis, American households and businesses are watching those cushions rapidly deteriorate as prices have soared. They have quoted an analyst here who says, that what they find alarming is just how quickly Americans had to speed through their savings because of those high prices. This is all according to the latest rating of S&P Global Ratings Financial Fragility Indicator rose rapidly during the second quarter this year. Fastest pace of deterioration since the financial crisis of 2008, and before that, the dot-com crash back in 2001. So to summarize here, people benefited from the pandemic programs. They actually were effective in helping to cushion the blow of the economy shutdowns and the loss of jobs and all that was going on then. Plus, people were at home; they just weren't out spending as much money. Now that that has ended and all those programs have been pulled, and then you also have inflation stretching budgets and wages not even coming close to keeping up with inflation. You have people burning through their savings like crazy. All of those bank accounts ultimately being drained at the fastest pace of deterioration since the financial crisis of 2008.
And
not a pretty picture.
A fun warning for the IMF. Put this up there. I just love this headline. The worst is yet to come from the IMF.
Cool. Thanks,
in its
IMF.
growth outlook for the 2023 interest rate increases will spur a harsh global recession, is what they say. They say, quote, "We are headed for stormy waters," in the World Economic Outlook published by the top officials at the IMF.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, the crazy thing about these is that in many ways they're feedback loops, which is markets will drop on as a result of the predictions. So it's, it all just spurs together. And then something else that we've also been tracking very closely, Krystal, U.S. mortgages are now at a fresh 16-year high. Put this up there.
Wow.
6.81%, making it nearly impossible to finance a new house. It's just crazy. The refinancing applications are down to a 22-year low.
Wow.
Meaning that if you own a home and you're paying a mortgage, you ain't moving anytime soon. Because to sell your house, you'd be a fool. And to give up and get a new mortgage, you would also be a fool.
Yeah, you'd have to be crazy to sell your house if you have, a low interest rate, which they were low. They were extremely low not so long ago. If you had that locked in, and then to move, I mean, you would have to buy a house that's like so much less than the house that you're already in to be able to afford it. At these rates, it's hard to overstate how much the increase in mortgage rates makes housing wildly unaffordable for most people. And so you mentioned the inflation numbers, rent prices going up. I mean, this is also directly tied into this because if you have people, being pushed down and being able to buy homes and being able to afford homes, well, then you have a larger renter population and that increases rent prices. So it is like bad for everybody all the way around, unless you're someone who has, millions in cash and can go snap something up without having to get a mortgage or permanent capital. I think we covered how these home builders are making deals, selling their new houses at like cut rates, 15-20% off to these large Wall Street firms, so that they'll be able to in a position to like make a bunch of money on the other side of this thing. But for literally everyone else is getting screwed here, and it's no accident that. The numbers just on the political front, and we're going to transition to another political story here in a minute, with Fetterman. The CNN's most recent poll has only 22% of Americans rating economic conditions in the country as good. 41% say the conditions are poor. 37% say they're very poor. Half of Americans say Biden's policies have served to worsen economic conditions. 26% say they have improved conditions. 24% say they've had no effect. And that's actually a little bit of an improvement for Biden from a poll taken back in April and May, when only 19% thought that Biden's economics policies were helping, and 55% said they were worsening conditions. So I guess some of the things that he has done have at least made an impression. Probably mostly of the movement, I would guess, is with Democrats who have been happier with him lately. But, in terms of the political landscape and where things are headed for the fall, this is a pretty dire portrait of the reality for Americans and how they're feeling and where things are ultimately headed.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.